Hi, everybody. And I think it is indeed season 2, episode 24. And yes, Gary's back. We let him back. He's been away doing his EMT. That's his emergency medical technician. Yeah? He's going to be able to drive, well, not drive, but treat people in ambulances. Who would have thought that that would ever be possible? He's normally putting them in them. But we won't worry about that. And of course, but our special guest here today is young Michael Kell. He's here to talk to us about the King's Speech and its implications for our sector, and guest safety officers and where it's all going. So first of all, quick from you, Gary, contractual, as you know, just get it out there.
Hello, I'm Gary Twining Wright, and I've been in the security industry for 38 years. There you go.
Yeah, and you're not going to mention your EMT training?
No, Mike, what's your name? Ian. No, I'm not mentioning my EMT training. The only person mentioning that is you. I like to keep myself to myself. And yes, I have been away doing my EMT training, doing my exams, and I've been working very, very hard recently.
Has it gone well, though, the exams, yeah?
It's gone very well. I keep forgetting your name, Ian, for some reason. I'm going to call you Michael.
Yeah.
Michael, yeah, it's going very well. I'm nearly all the way through it. Just got a few more things to do, and we're all ready to rock and roll.
All right, well, that's brilliant, mate. Really pleased for you. Anyway, that's enough of you. Sorry about that, Mike, but as I say, we have to let him talk at some point. Otherwise, I never hear the last of it. So, Mike, our very most important person ever. How's it all going? Because what I did notice was you wrote a very nice letter or article about the way that you feel the government, the new Labour government, have settled in and their attitude. Can you just tell us a bit about that, mate?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm probably the fiercest critic of anyone, particularly governments and that side. But the one thing that I think I wanted to portray within the sort of blog was really the difference between previous government and current government in terms of approach. And I sort of summed it up really simply: is you're dealing with people, not officers. The last 4 years has definitely been very protocol and pomp and peer and all the other bits that go along with being a minister. And the change in attitudes and positioning has been very people focused.
What does that mean? What does that look like?
It's just been engaging. It's been accessible. It's about having frank conversations, and it's not about just being heard and not being considered. And I always look at how politicians work is how meaningful is the engagement. What is the response? Many of the meetings that we go into and the training that I've had in the past is go in, and so the civil servant coming in with a minister's job realistically is to get the minister in and out without committing anything. Where you've got a minister that's quite personable and wants to talk and wants to engage and wants to commit and wants to, really understand is the difference. So we've gone from an environment where a minister will come in and it'll be in and out and it'll be, yes, I hear you. Yes, I'll have a look at this and etc. To can you tell me a bit more? And, so I think the environments have changed and the consideration and conversation has been more personable and the accessibility engagement has been more meaningful. So the way I would say is we're moving into a very more personal relationship, particularly, our industry and particularly people that I represent and the work that I've done with them. It just feels like there's a greater access and there's a greater engagement. And I feel like there is positive change that can happen off the back of the engagement.
Gary?
It's interesting you say that, Michael. I have an old saying, and the old saying is very simple: whoever you vote for, government wins. I mean, I think that speaks for itself. But, from you're saying from your personal opinion, you think things are going to change. Are they going to change, or is it going to be falling on deaf ears, or the same old line is, that's a really great idea, I'll come back to you on that one?
I think with everything you've got to have a little bit of positivity, or otherwise we'd all just sit down and sit on our hands and do nothing about it. I think it presents opportunities, in terms of the security sector and as a whole. I mean, we've recently had some data that's come out that's quite interesting around the SIA and vetting. There is an opportunity to readdress things like business licensing. We've got a new platform or a new Home Secretary that will consider, the simple solution rather than going around the houses. So while we talk about things like tax disparity and all the other bits that we're working through with HMRC, we're also taking the opportunity to pitch to the new Home Secretary the opportunity to reconsider and reevaluate business licensing. So for us, there are several mechanisms we're chasing. Tax disparity is going to come in like or dislike, whether business licensing is there or not. So what we've done is taken the decision to still proceed with that. We've just fulfilled the evidence base to pass to HMRC that goes to the committees that look at the over tax compliance notice. And now what we're doing is working on a campaign that's going to lobby through press and through direct letter and counter signatories to drive the Home Secretary to reconsider the exposure, given the vetting figures that have come out, the fact that we've got 8,000 businesses that are untracked, the fact that Martin's Law is something they want to progress very quickly. What they are and don't have sight of is the exposure and the void. The gaps, I suppose, is the issue. And on top of that, there is also the licensing side, which there are still many questions to answer. And the likes of Philip Colvin has been advocating for not having a new regulatory body that costs us 62 billion, but for us to interface what we're doing in terms of licensing into the current licensing act, and how we could save 62 billion pounds worth of investment by creating a regulatory sort of subsector that would allow that to work. So I think for us, there are several sort of elements here. The counter-terrorism piece off the back of the King's speech is very clear, but we do need to make sure that the narrative around that and security, particularly frontline security, is presented in the right way so that the Home Secretary can make an informed decision. At the moment, the work that was done by the SIA just fell on deaf ears. And I question how strong that argument was. But I think with a new Home Secretary who is interested in hearing what's going on out there and where effectively there are going to be challenges, and given the fact that Martin's Law is going to be a prominent piece from the King's speech, they are not going to want to see those voids, and they're not going to want to allow that to go untamed. So that's the way that we're sort of presenting it.
I think there's a couple of pieces that come straight out of that, and I don't know, Gary, maybe you're a slightly different view. But first of all, if Martin's Law is to come in, which it is going to do, I have absolutely no doubt, to the level and extent that it comes in that means that there needs to be the creation of a new register, a new body, as you say. So why would you go and spend a load of money, as Philip says, doing something completely new? Absolute waste of cash. So why not? So why not build it in to the existing regulatory scheme, which for me, at that level should be the SIA, but a different SIA. I also feel as I must just, which I don't like doing, as you well know, stick up for the SIA. I think is Michelle Russell's letter to the Manchester Arena inquiry follow-up. I thought that was incredible. She couldn't have been any clearer, any stronger in what she said. So I want to see that come forward in the way that you said, and for us to see that development occur or not bother.
I think the challenge that you've got, and I understand the letter, and I said, but you have to question how simple and we say simple. I mean, there's some infrastructure challenges with regard to business licensing, but the reality is it's an important part of what we do. Yeah. And if you can't you can't regulate if you can't track. It's all well and good tracking operatives, but if you can't track the businesses presenting the operatives, there's a void. We've already seen data that suggests that there is a void in terms of people who have come from abroad into the UK over the last 5 to 10 years not being vetted properly because the data for vetting is not available. Therefore, they're falling short. And that's to the tune of about 111,000 operatives who have gained their license. So when you look at that, you have to question, not only the regulator, but also you have to question the process to which we move forward with Martin's Law, because if the frontline security mechanism is falling short and the industry in terms of resource supply is not vetting appropriately and we can't regulate appropriately because there's no mandated position in terms of quality, then I think we're very clearly at a negative position moving into a very difficult time in terms of the implementation. And we're not just talking about resource companies, we're talking about the end user as well that's going to be compromised. We've got to protect public spaces, but anyone who just walks around and just ignores it just is beyond belief. I just don't understand how we can walk around, realize that 8,000 businesses are untrackable, realize that the vetting process is not working, then go out with a HMRC position, which looks at tax disparity because that's the only other option to drive them to PAYE with regard to trackability. And then off the back of that, just sort of sit back and expect Martin's Law to fulfill the requirement. It's going to, another Manchester Arena, situation will arise, and then we'll reevaluate it. And sadly, that's other lives lost or people compromised. And, I just don't think that's something that we should, allow to run by us. So we're taking every opportunity to push this home, which is why the Home Secretary stuff, the vetting side, the 8,000 businesses, the HMRC work and all this narrative is so important, because we want to have an industry that's going to last, not one that's going to be pulled apart or is subject to organized crime gangs or, people being, for me, I just feel that we're on a precipice of actually making some positive change. And it's just we need that person at the top, the Home Secretary, to go, right, enough, let's move forward and do something.
But I mean, we're looking at the vetting there, Mike. There's two major things there. We've got the vetting we were talking about, and also we're talking about business licensing. The vetting, as we said before, there's people over 100,000 people plus coming to the country who are not vetted correctly. And I think one of the stipulations is with the SIA, when I spoke to them about this, is if a person hasn't got a DBS over here, all they need is a letter from their local police officer from where they've come from, and that will suffice, is that the right word? Or that will do as
suffice, yeah.
Suffice, thank you, Mike. That was for their DBS check. But as we know, there's a lot of countries out there which are corrupt, and your local police chief will easily sign things off. But we've got these guys, these guys and girls, people running out there who have been just signed off, and they're out there already doing it, which is problem number one. We talk about the vetting. The next stage is the business licensing. Now, I wasn't for business licensing. I wasn't for it at all, but I am much for it now, because, as you say, there's 8,000 businesses out there which cannot be, they can't find out who they are. They're out there just throwing stuff out, and they're just doing stuff willy-nilly, absolutely willy-nilly. So I'm all for business licensing. But the reality is, firstly, let's go for the business licensing. How long is it going to take for that to actually come into play? We've been arguing about this now for several years, and we're now new government, on a rough idea, timescale, how long will that take to actually go through and get done?
I mean, don't get me wrong, it's no different than Martin's Law. It's going to take several years to put in the infrastructure, but the reality is it's on the agenda, and it's moving towards a mandatory position in terms of quality of operation. Then it's all worth fighting for. The hinge point here, or the pivotal point, is Martin's Law. Is the reality. We're walking into an environment where counterterrorism is front and center. We've already had an experience through Manchester. We've had the recommendations from the Manchester Arena inquiry. It's very clear and what we're doing is not acting on it. And what we're trying to do is ramp up the pressure, show that there are regulatory gaps. Not always SIA's fault. They've got to work within the Private Security Act, but the reality is the PSA's got to change as well. So, we need to get to a point that we've got a mandatory quality assurance program. We need to get to a point where we need to understand who's operating in these environments, no different than taxis, and we need to ensure that those operating in these environments are delivering people who are of good quality, good training, and they are vetted appropriately. And, I don't think that's a bad thing. I just think the challenge that we have is I cannot understand how anyone can't see the simplicity and requirement around what we're looking to achieve, given the fact that we've got this onerous piece of legislation coming in, which is going to impact so many, and we're almost walking in. It's like we're walking in with two flat tires.
Yeah, it's you sort of take that and taking on the points of both of you sort of illustrated and articulated so well. Is what are we going to? When are we? And this is my big thing driving through now. You're part of what. When are we as an industry? When are we as a sector going to say enough? If you're not going to do something, we will self-regulate to a large degree, and that we can do that because we do control an awful lot of the contracts and or dealings with people, so that we can, so buyers can say, we want you to do A, B, and C. We can say our staff will go through this training. We have that. It's in our discretion. So there's a certain amount of leadership rather than going, the government, whichever colour it is. Well, we know now for 5 years it's going to be Labour, but that we actually take literally as I think they've taken it. They've taken the take back control.
But it's. I mean, there's several tranches here that have got to be considered. I mean, the BBC sort of footage that we did a while back in terms of door security going into a job knowing that they're 90% sure they're going to get physical and verbal abuse.
Yeah.
We talk about retail. I've just written to Yvette Cooper and highlighted that needs to include nighttime economy businesses and hospitality, particularly security. So over and above that, we need to also ensure that, I agree with you to a point, but I've also got to look at the political landscape and the opportunities. Yes. And with the change of narrative and the very clear dynamic that a Home Secretary will want to set their mark, they could quite easily set their mark by changing and reevaluating the business licensing proposition and moving forward. So we're with Martin's Law being part of the King's Speech, with the potential in terms of protections of security being, a real important piece. We have an opportunity to challenge the new Home Secretary on what they will do and where these voids have been. And what we've got to do is infiltrate that. But what I'm saying to you is off the back of the piece that I did is there is a greater, stronger, engaged dialogue to have those conversations. If it was the same as before, I'd be writing a letter for it to be stacked with other letters asking for different things. What I'm saying to you is there is an opportunity here, a direct opportunity through a range of politicians to pressure the Home Secretary into a consideration which would at least give us some face time to allow us to have the debate and argument and see whether it's something that she would consider. So that's kind of where we're at with it, and that's the reason why we've taken this tact.
Gary?
Yeah, with all this, I mean, it's all good. It's good news, but it's not good news. For me, that's how it sounds, Mike. It's great. It's all sugar coated, but when we're looking at the bigger picture, we're still looking 2, 3, 4, 5 years, maybe even down to Martin's Law. This is stuff which needs to be implemented, ASAP. I mean, we've got the regulator there. Their hands are tied. Why isn't someone untying their hands and going, bang? The regulator can now do this, 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 and this. It's already there, but we're talking about doing something.
It's interesting when you say, Gary, and the amount of conversations I have with people, and I'm going to be quite honest about it, and please don't take this the wrong way. The amount of conversations I have with people and they say, what you want to tell government is when you get a chance to speak to Keir Starmer, you tell him to do this, 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 and this, and this, cut VAT, tell him I ain't paying my energy bill and all that sort of thing. This is, it's a little bit of a political pawn playing. We understand that there is a desire and there is a public interest to protect people off the back of Manchester. We also have to leverage that desire to then push public opinion to support the mechanism which is going to give public spaces a stronger position. Now, I know full well, and I'd love to turn around and say we can turn it on and turn it off, but business licensing is going to take some infrastructure change. No two ways about it. Martin's Law is going to take some infrastructure change. We still don't know who the regulator is, potentially, but the reality is that's going to take change. The commitment is the key to it. What we need to do is hit it early doors, because what we don't want to do is in 4 or 5 years' time, once we get to a potential new regime change, lost the opportunity for it to actually be in traction and going through the legislative process and the right rounds, etc. So for me, we need to start early. The provision needs to be pushed out, and Yvette Cooper needs to be given the opportunity to consider. If she doesn't consider, then we've got to draw back and we've got to look at an industry-driven ratification scheme. There's no two ways about it. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. But let's have a look at that opportunity first. The King's Speech position, and then off the back of it, the Home Secretary and the pressure around it, because I guarantee you Fegan Murray and people like that will support. Now that's over the line and it's happening and they can't back out of it. She will want to make sure that people are safe. There's no point in, there's no point in doing all of this work and getting to a point there's going to be a huge void in safety, because it kind of demeans the whole effort that she's made to get to this point.
Yeah, I think, I do think it's important that anybody, those of us, the thousands of people that are no doubt watching this video around the globe with bated breath.
I was just thinking that.
Yeah, and I could tell that, you were there. But the bottom line is what everybody watching this needs to understand. When the last government changed hand in 2019, and the Conservatives came in with all their promise, is we weren't having these conversations. People like you didn't exist. So we are now in a position where on day one, we've got somebody in the shape of Michael Gill, and the NTIA, who's in the place to actually make the case for change, for positive change for our industry. So, Mike, isn't that a good thing?
It is. I mean, listen, you've got a voice. We've probably had more press over door security, although it's taken them a while to get the bouncer thing out of the bloody thing. But think about over the course of the last sort of 2 or 3 years, how much coverage the press has got off the back of what we've been doing in the background and giving some prominence. I mean, that video that Gary, you took part in has had huge coverage on BBC, and really sort of, made the mark. So for me, I mean, there's some really positive work that's been done. And look, the one thing that you'll get from me, and I'm tenacious in every way possible, but if they say no, we'll find another route round them, is the way it is. And the SIA, with the greatest of love, are very much a process-driven administrative sort of vehicle. We recognise that very early. So we went to the likes of HMRC, we went to the likes of the Home Office, and we worked with them, particularly in public protection. And we've had meetings with the SIA and public protection on the figures and things like that. So, all of these things have become very, very prominent. And I think for us, we've got the best voice that we've ever had. That's not to say that we need to sit on our hands, but we definitely need to push the agenda. And it's in our gift and the ministerial gift to do or create these changes. And, if we're ever given an opportunity, now is the time for us to really push on and see if we can land this, given a new government and a new narrative, especially as the Conservatives said no. Labour will love the opportunity to say yes and galvanise people. So that's the bit that we're rocking on. But there is a plan B. There is a plan B.
Yes, and don't tell us plan B, because we want to save that. We don't want to spoil that in case we need to get you back. the other side, the other thing. So was there anything else that really took your eye and sort of thing? Yeah, for the King's speech, that's really good. I'm really pleased.
I think, I mean, the prominent thing is obviously Martin's Law, the spiking side, although the narrative wasn't clear in the King's speech, is definitely something moving forward, something that we've really sort of advocated quite heavily for. 0-hour contracts is one that's, I think is very important, but we need to have considerations around seasonality. Particularly the security sector will have some challenges with that. And I think, you know, the reality is the bigger test for me, because if I'm going to be quite frank, I kind of felt like the King's speech was a bit Magnolia. In real simple terms, it was kind of like just not very exciting. And I think the biggest test is going to be the autumn budget. That's where Rachel Reeves is going to earn her money, and we're going to really start to understand you know, what the future is going to look like. And the concern that we have at the moment is, given that Conservatives would have built up debt and will be pushing Labour into a forced tax increase, you know, we've got a concern that long term we're probably going to suffer. And that 75% discount on business rates is potentially going to be either lowered or taken away, which is going to compromise businesses, which will then have an impact on security and everybody else. So, you know, there's lots and lots of still unanswered questions. And I always find the King's speech a little bit, it's almost like a teaser. You know, this is what we could be doing. This is what we might be doing, but I'm not going to give you the full facts. I'm not going to be exact in terms of what I'm going to commit to. So, you know, in real simple terms, autumn budget is going to be the one where we're going to understand the narrative.
Can I just ask Gary now? I just wanted to bring Gary here. Sorry, Mike. I just about the zero. And yeah, and then perhaps you like 0-hour contracts within within the sector. It was social, and when I talk about a sector, I talk about social economy, the nighttime economy. Yeah, and the impact that will have do you think there's a place for them, Gary, or can we afford to employ everybody, for a minimum number of hours? What I mean, your thoughts, then let Mike come back on it.
The actual issue here is, Michael. I'll do it again. Sorry, Ian.
It's all right, mate.
TBI kicking in. Sorry, mate. The TBI still. The issue is because you've got operators who might only operate 6 hours, and we only need 6 hours work, or you've got an event which is only going to be lasting, 2 days. So that's 24 hours, and you've got overnight cover. So it doesn't really work. The 0 hours does work. I mean, a lot of people don't like it, but in the nighttime economy, it does, for the way the system works, because your pubs may be open from 11 to 11, but you might not have a door team from 11 to 11. You might only have them from 6 till midnight or 4 till things. That's what the real issue is there. I mean, not every pub every night or every event or every club has security every night. It does, if you're working in the retail market, you can employ people on a normal contract basis in your corporate area, normal contract basis. But when we work in the nighttime economy, it's just not the same.
Well, the other thing is the eradication of the 18 to 20 sort of tier brackets as well in terms of pay. Not that we have people around the 18 to 20 age group as much in security. But it is, it's a challenge. It's got to be a consideration. So it's definitely something that we're taking forward and trying to deal with as best as possible. But, you've got a lot of the unions behind Labour who are very driven around, workers' rights. And they're going to be forced off the back of what they've been advocating for and what they've promised and committed to ensure that that's been brought in. So we really do need to consider what's going on. I mean, national living wage is another big issue. Once that 75% discount in terms of business rates go, then there's going to be a huge hit in terms of business rates, not that discounted business rates not fulfilling the increase in national living wage that we saw this year. So I think there are some real concerns that, given the autumn budget and potential spring budget, then we could see a lot of businesses go to the wire or decide that it's just too expensive to operate. And that includes security companies, because there's a knock-on effect here, without a doubt.
Absolutely. You got, it all affects nighttime economy and bars and clubs. rapidly. A lot of them cannot afford security as it is, and again, this is falls back. They're using the 8,000 so companies out there who aren't registered, can still, nip around the corner, grab someone on the street, and they're the people they need to stay open. And whereas the professional companies or people doing the right thing, they just cannot afford. And small businesses who are trying to do the right thing won't be able to afford it.
I think, can I just add on to this, Mike, before you answer as well, is because, as a gammon, and a quite clearly red old gammon at the moment, is I actually, despite being, slightly right of centre, I think it's disgraceful that we haven't trained people, that we subsidise, and that businesses have been essentially subsidised by mass immigration, etc., that we should have been training people, we should have been doing things. And within that context, if the unions and the government and the Labour government get together and say, right, this needs to be done to keep people safe as part of the regular, not only the regulatory requirement, but as human beings, then that cost needs to be taken on by business. But we also have to accept that the costs of doing that will rise, because I don't know, Mike, you have better experience than me. I'm sure that the cost of doing stuff abroad is more than it is here.
Well, you've got to, let's look at it like this. Let's take it apart. So we're at the point now where inflation's at 2%. Yeah. We're probably looking at 6 to 12 months to really start to see the impact or the slope. So what they're going to be monitoring is how inflation sits at the moment and exactly what the cost of daily living is. And that cost of daily living is going to have an impact on when they make decisions on not so much national living wage, but definitely on whether they pull things like the 75% business rates relief, because they're going to want to make sure that inflation has hit the front line before they start to sort of draw away some of the supports. So, and that's what we hope in terms of impact assessment. So there is a lot that needs to be considered, and this is where the industry case studies and all of these sort of relevant impact assessment pieces for members become really important. And a lot of work that we do in terms of presenting financial frameworks, which they can understand is going to be the impact over the next 6 to 12 months, how inflation is going to be impacted. So for me, it's almost a judgment call in terms of the transition of it impacting the front line. That's how they need to approach this. And they do need to extend these reliefs for a certain period of time to allow it to transition. Now, that could mean business rates goes down to 50% from 70%. And then over the course of the next 3 to 6 months, then goes down to 30%. And then they transition out of the business rates. Now, that to me is a smarter way of managing it and allowing inflation to take root. But there's a lot of work behind that. Do we look at things like alcohol duty and how that works? At the moment, the ABV is really the marker of how you would sort of pay for, and that goes back to manufacturer, but comes back at the cost point. But we also know that 25% of people are drinking low and no alcohol, which they're subsidizing. So for me, there is a lot of things out there that are happening at the moment, both market specific and inflationary, that need to be considered in terms of the transition from where we are today until we actually feel the costs at the front line in terms of stock, wet and food stock, and those issues. And what we're hearing, I mean, Ofgem has turned around and said to us very clearly, these energy costs are here to stay. They're not going. These energy companies like the idea of earning this money. Once inflation starts to ebb and they're getting the cost of oil down, they are going to sort of try and retain as much as possible, which is something the government needs to deal with as well. So there's lots of elements to this that will make a difference in terms of the inflationary position. But I think the government have got to think of a transitional phased reduction of business rates potentially, but they've also got to look at business rates reform on a long-term position. VAT is a really good opportunity, but if we went down to, I think someone was quoting 10% VAT. It's something like 165 billion pounds lost to the Treasury for a 10% VAT position. They just haven't got it. We've got to be realistic. Even if they took 5% off, it would help, but it's still, 82.5 billion pounds. So let's try and be realistic and see whether it's workable, or use business rates to target bricks and mortar, and then use VAT to look at culture and the sort of restaurant side of things. So that's for me is the opportunity. But there's lots of discussions around this. It's not an easy solution, because you're already hearing the narrative from all the different MPs going, oh well, we've been left in a mess. I can't believe how bad it is. And yeah, okay, all right, fine. So you're building us up for a tax increase. So let's make sure that they're very clear that what industries are going to be impacted.
Yeah, Gary.
The way I look at it, they can drive us out of business. It's big, the more they do it, they drive everybody out of business. Then they've got no money coming in. It's a catch-22 on that point. I mean, they should be helping the nighttime economy. The nighttime economy brings in billions into the UK every weekend, every week. It's something which needs to be nurtured. It's something that needs to be looked after. So if they're not going to prepare to do something about it, and they lose it, they could lose a whole industry.
Well, they're subsidised galleries, theatres, and etc., and they're propping them up through MPO funding. So from our perspective, they need to consider the counterculture. Things like the Ministry of Sound, Fabric, Sub Club Glasgow, all need to be treated as MPOs, and they need to get the funding similarly to sustain their position.
So it just makes me laugh. Is the subculture. The subculture is how many people watch opera. These people, and that isn't the sub. If you want popular culture, that is the real culture. Is what's going out in pubs, clubs. That's real culture that's occurring, engaging, enabling people to meet, to find and exchange ideas. It's not happening, with some ballet going, oh, hello, Michael. Saying, what did you think of the pas de deux on the third act? That ain't happening, mate.
But what I'm trying to say to you is, and I agree. I mean, classic culture. I mean, I did a blog a while back, classic culture against counterculture, and my issue is you've got Berlin looking at techno as a cultural entity. You're looking at Berghain. We should be looking at things like the Islington Assembly and the Roundhouse and all of these sort of things as cultural assets, and they should be treated and considered in the same way that galleries, museums, and etc. should. And the sooner we start to do that and consider it, and I think Lisa Nandy is a good one for it. I mean, she's come out, I think last year she came out saying that nightclubs are the backbone of high streets. So for me, she's we know full well that she has a young heart in terms of her consideration around culture. So for us, I think that's an opportunity, but there are also some fail safes with it. I mean, we're looking at the white paper for gambling, and that's potentially going to get, it's going to go through the grinder a little bit, I think, especially with there's a big report due out this Thursday, which is going to be quite damning. So let's see where we go.
Right, mate. It's as ever, you've got to fly off again, haven't you? Where is it you're off to?
Barcelona.
Yeah. Are you going to Barcelona, Gary?
No,
Neither am I, mate. Yeah, the world globetrotting.
Edgeway with this fella.
Say again.
As if I get a word in Edgeway with this fella. You never get a word in Edgeway with Mr. Fox, do you? Well, where I am this weekend, Michael. I'm working for a number of people this weekend. I leave on Thursday. We've got a massive training thing we're doing for about searching and trying to make people more competent rather than compliant this Friday. Then I'm working 2 large events over the weekend. On Monday, I think I'm doing something for Dawn Dines. I'm working for her, doing some bits and pieces. And I finally return home, I think, on Wednesday next week.
Nice. Well, I'm... So what's my week looking at? So I'm giving evidence to the London Assembly about nighttime economy in the morning. Then the following day, I'm giving evidence in a round table. And then I'm in Bristol giving evidence at with the mayor in or the committee, I think, in Bristol. I'm not quite sure. I've still got to read that up, and then I'm in Barcelona from Tuesday next week for 3 days. So it's about as exciting as it gets, mate. Really.
I hear you. I hear you.
Yeah. I'm sat here in my council house in the lodge. I'll be editing this. That's about as far as I get. Yeah. Not to worry. The most important thing is a quick goodbye and socials from Gary.
Okay, if you like our content and you like more what we do, please like and subscribe. Press the button somewhere down there. If you've got any questions for any of our guests or myself, not Ian, please DM me directly. Or if you know me on LinkedIn, send me a message via LinkedIn. And also you can go to our website, which is www.guestsafetyoffcerlobbygroup.co.uk. I've probably got that wrong, Ian, haven't I?
Yeah, you did. You did.
There you go. There you go. But yeah, that's it from me.
Mike, final thoughts, please.
Hey, listen, the future's in our hands. We've just got to grab it and run with it and kick down a few doors on the way through. So for me, it's all in our hands. We just need to take it forward. So positive thoughts, positive energy. Let's just crack on and yeah, we've got to make a difference. So, but thanks for, and I was going to say this. Thanks for, I mean, you know, without you guys, I just would never have got to this place because, you know, I've been on this about 3 or 4 times now, and I love coming on and getting absolutely barraged by you.
It's practice. It's good practice for you for
It
when
is
you
good.
get in front of them. You know where the real street cred lies. Obviously, the street cred is not me. That's I've gone bright red again. I don't know why that happens. I only go bright red when Annie's on usually, and now you. But anyway, it's a big thanks, Mike. Thank you for
No,
taking the
thank you.
time.
No, listen, I've always got time for you guys, you know, and I respect the fact that we do talk outside of this, and you know, you do give me your opinion, and that helps me in terms of molding what I do as well. So it goes much further than this. So thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Meanwhile, yeah, Gary's there. By the way, you know, just in case, it's https:// GSO guest safety officer.co.uk. So that's it. You know, you can find it. It'll be on the links anyway. Not to worry. We have had a great time, as is always the case. Thanks, Gary. And folks, he turned up. And yes, he forgot my name. And Ronnie McGeechan, if you're watching, see, it's not just you he forgets. It's me as well. And I talk to him, you know, fairly regularly, which is worrying. I'm the oldest. I am the one who's supposed to have the medical or the mental health memory problems. Instead, we've got the EMT who can't remember what he's doing. Not a great look, Gary, for when you're in that ambulance, I can tell you. And on that note, people, peace out.
See you later.
Take it.
See you later.